Oh, spring is here, pollen is in the air, but that is okay. Let's get into spring planning. Hello and welcome back to my channel, Klee Creates. I'm Kaylee and this is my spring knits planning video. Slightly overdue, not really, slightly. We're a couple weeks into spring, and some of these things I am considering like cusp spring summery plans. Because I am filming this in the season. I feel more confident in my ability to finish the things I'm about to talk about. Splitting this video into two parts. The first part is what I am definitely planning on making this spring, this season, and then the second half is a little bit more inspo oriented. I basically pulled a bunch of patterns from Drops Design, which is like Garn Studios or Drops Studios free pattern catalog. And I just poured through a bunch of different free patterns that more than likely I will not be getting to this season. Maybe one or two, but largely it's inspiration for me and hopefully for you as the spring season continues on. And they're free. Who doesn't love that? So the first portion though is what I'm planning on making. These are not free patterns, but they are ones I'm excited about. I've purchased the patterns, I've purchased the yarn, and I've already not started all of them, but a couple of them I have started. So you might remember them from my previous podcast episodes if you've seen those. If not, go check them out. Yeah. Okay. So the first pattern I'm going to talk about is my Sevilla blouse by PetiteKnit, and it's a boat neck style blouse. The yarn that I'm using for it is not what's recommended, and because of that, it's not really the weight that I would want for a spring blouse. It definitely feels a little bit thicker. Actually, let me just grab it. I have talked about this a couple of times now, but just to reiterate, and for those of you who have not seen my podcast episode, this is the beginning of the Sevilla blouse. It's top-down construction. You start the back. There's no shaping on the back. There is shaping on the front. So what I'm going to have to do at this point is pick up stitches along the cast-on edge for the shoulders. Then that links to the front. Then you shape the front, and then you connect it in the round, and yada yada. The yarn that's recommended for this is Palette by Isager and held together, or Lena by Sandnes Garn, held together with either Trio 1 by Isager or Tin Lena by Sandnes Garn. That's supposed to be a DK plus a fingering equaling an Aran weight yarn. These are technically the yarn, they're technically supposed to be the correct weights. So this is supposed to be equivalent to a DK. It's from Loops and Threads, it's the Heathered Tweed. And in my opinion, I think because it's a little bit of like a blown yarn, if I'm correct about that classification, it's a little bit thicker than what a DK would traditionally be, and it fills up a little bit more space. So because of that, I feel like the garment so far is not as airy and not as lightweight as intended. And then I'm holding it with just a cotton fingering weight that I got from Amazon. Very cheap, very inexpensive, but primarily this knit was supposed to be process knit for a new construction that I'm doing. I've not knitted something like this before. I've primarily only done raglan garments, so this was kind of a net new thing for me, and I'm excited to see how it turns out. But as of now, I'm one, worried that it's a little bit too big, and two, worried that it's a little bit too thick for spring. Either way, I think the pattern, for those of you who are maybe a little bit more willing to, first of all, doing a gauge swatch and finding or getting the correct yarns, or maybe you already have them in stash, I think it's a really cool blouse for spring, especially spring up north where I am, outside of New York City. I think this could be a really great design or a really great pattern for the season. But yeah, time will tell how this one turns out. But this is the one I'm definitely furthest along for this video. The second pattern I'm doing for the spring season is most likely, and I say most likely because I might be swayed into a different pattern based on the yarn that I have and based on what I'm jonesing to make. So it's the Monday sweater by PetiteKnit. Um, this one is it's supposed to be a lace plus fingering weight equaling a DK weight. I am making a Monday sweater for my mom presently. You can check that out on my last podcast episode. But hers is I'm just using a DK weight yarn, and it's this kind of deep navy. It's Malabrigo Arroyo, and it's a very nice, light, flexible weight. It's super wash merino wool. I think actually it'll be a good weight for the spring for her. But for my sweater that I'm planning on doing, for my Monday sweater, I got a Hydergarten brushed baby alpaca in this light blue color, and then I got Drops Nord in ice blue. Let me grab those. So these are the yarns that I'm planning on making my Monday sweater in. It's a nice light kind of pastel blue. I think this would be good for the office. I work in Midtown Manhattan, and for those of you who work in a corporate office building in America, you probably know that it can be very cold, especially in the summer with the AC blasting. So I'm thinking that this could be a good pattern as like a light office sweater, something that I could layer in the office. But there's a chance I switch this, I use this yarn for a different pattern, and maybe it's something that I will get to in the suggested patterns that I have for the spring later in this episode. I don't really have this like dedicated to Monday. But yeah, we'll see what I end up using this for. Sticking with the long sleeves for one more second because I live in the northeast of the US, and you may be able to tell from how gray it looks outside, but it is rainy, cloudy, and about 43 degrees Fahrenheit. So spring is relative. So another long sleeve item that I'm looking to make this spring is the Jolie Genser by Sandnes, or the Jolie sweater. It's a striped mohair sweater. It's knit from the hem up, and this is the first sweater that I will be doing um, with any type of color change at all. So I've never done a striped sweater. I've never done any color work, and I'm definitely feeling intimidated by that, despite this being the easiest pattern in this magazine for sure. I'm a little worried about how nice it'll come out. So I didn't want to splurge on the tin silk mohair for this. I ended up getting Diablo by HOBBII, and it's this 40% acrylic, 30% mohair, 30% polyamide blend. So there is some mohair, but it's definitely more manufactured material. I went with the same color for the sweater that was in the book. I tried to do as close of a color match as I possibly could for this. So I'm thinking that they will blend together very nicely. This like white cream, I think it's called Optic White is the color. This is the base of the sweater, so it'll be primarily this, and then these will be woven throughout. And I think together they will be a nice kind of lighter striping, a little bit low contrast, which I think will look really nice for the spring. Because otherwise this one is darker than I was expecting, but I do think together it'll look very nice. So that is for the Jolie Genser, the Jolie sweater, which hopefully I will cast on soon. Currently torn between doing a large or extra large. I think I'm going to finish the Frankie sweater that I'm working on, which is it's just the main cover sweater. I'm going to see how that fits and then try to decide sizing based off of that. And yeah, the Jolie sweater should have a 19 stitch gauge on 4mm needles. I have not done the gauge swatch for it yet. But yeah, the colors that I got, just in case you want to look them up yourself, Syringa 34, Optic White 1, and then Caramel 15, all in the Diablo by HOBBII. Yeah, and they were pretty inexpensive all told. I think they were under $4 US per ball, which definitely about half the price of what the Sandnes and Tin Lena is, and that's what, or the Tin Silk Mohair is, which is what was the suggested yarn for that. So yeah, excited about that one. Okay, now that those are my long sleeve knitting plans. I'm going to talk about my short sleeve knitting plans. Up first is the Lane Loop Tee by Other Loops. I'm going to knit that in a size extra large, which has a positive ease of 20 to 25 centimeters. I spent a lot of time looking for a t-shirt, a knit t-shirt for the spring and summer. I wanted something that I felt comfortable enough to wear into the office. I wanted it to be like a classic fit, but not something that was too plain either. So I was thinking raglan, maybe something a little bit more of like a snazzy raglan, perhaps a saddle shoulder. I'm not really sure. But I spent quite a bit of time looking at different t-shirt options, and I landed on the Lane Loop Tee by Other Loops. Recommended yarn for this one was Isager Silk Mohair, held together with Sandnes and Tin Lena. I did end up getting the Tin Lena by Sandnes, and I got it in this flame scarlet color, which you can kind of see here is this kind of washed red, almost a little bit orangey red. And then instead of the Isager Silk Mohair, because that is expensive, I ended up getting the Diablo by HOBBII again. But this one it's called Red. I think it's Red 37. It's a little bit more of a cooler red than the Tin Lena. So I wasn't sure how that was going to look together. But when I did the gauge swatch, I'm really happy with how it turned out. And I think this will be a really beautiful, like late spring, summer t-shirt. It's almost like a poppy red, at least what I would consider a poppy red. So yeah, I'm very excited for that. It's a 20 stitch gauge, and I was able to hit gauge with the suggested needles, which were the 4mm and then 3.5mm for the hem. So yeah, the Diablo yarn, I already talked about the mix, but it's acrylic, mohair, and polyamide. And then the Sandnes and Tin Lena is 53% cotton, 33% viscose, and then 14% linen. It's not the most soft thing, but I think held with this, it's a nice on the skin feel. Though I think I will wear a tank top or something underneath it because summertime, sweaty, I want some sort of barrier between me and my nice handmade knits. The final thing that I have planned for this season is the Fluffy Crop Top by Lykke, I think. Lykke. Apologies if I mispronounced that. But I was looking for something to do a little bit more of a stash bust. So I have a lot of like acrylic yarns that I got from Michael's or I got from Joann's, and I wanted to find ways to use them up this season with like just smaller garments. I don't do a ton of accessories. I'm more attracted to garment knits, so I figured tank top season is probably a good time to do that. So the fluffy crop top is this higher neck cropped tank in brioche knitting. I've never done brioche before, but the pattern says it is beginner friendly. So I'm hoping it is. And I have a bunch of, as I mentioned, I'm using the same yarn in my Sevilla blouse. It's this heathered tweed by Loops and Threads. I originally bought 3 different colors of this yarn. So I got the cream, which I'm using for Sevilla, this jadeite or jadeite color, and then there's a like navy blue one that I have too. And I got 2 balls of each color when I was originally planning to crochet a cardigan last year. That plan went to hell because this I don't crochet really, and this yarn is very like again kind of like loopy, blown out, like chainish. So with for whatever reason the hook, I was having a real hard time with that. It kept getting caught and it wasn't really working out. It was really hard to see where the holes were for the crochet that I was doing. And all that to say, I want to find different ways to use this yarn. So the white yarn I'm using for the Sevilla blouse. I did have to buy a couple more balls of that just for yardage. But for this tank top, I should have enough from two of these to make it. I'm hoping that there's enough yardage for that. I think I'm going to make size 42, which would give me a positive ease of, it says 11 centimeters as the recommended. I think it would be about like 8 to 10 centimeters of positive ease. But yeah, I think it depends on how cropped it is. I do have a short torso, but I don't want it to be like super ultra cropped where it's not something I could wear to work with high rise like jeans. I want to be able to wear this as like a layering piece in the office. So my hope is that I have enough yarn to do a little bit longer than maybe what's the recommended length as a crop, but we'll see. And then, as I mentioned, I do have this yarn in a deeper blue. So if I like how it turns out in this jadeite color, I might do it with the navy blue as well. Those are the 5 items I have bookmarked for spring that I'm hoping to finish. A lot of them are not currently in progress, as you could tell, but my hope is that I can get a lot of knitting done on these items sooner rather than later. And then the other portion of this video is my kind of like inspo section, bunch of free patterns from Drops Design that I poured over so you don't have to kind of deal. None of these I currently have planned to make, but again, I might repurpose the Monday sweater um, yarn quantity that I have into one of these other designs just to see if there's something else that really like stands out to me. Maybe I'll do that. All right, first up we have, and again, all of these are from Drops Design, is the Cherished Moments cardigan. It doesn't have any button band. It's seemingly just very simple stockinette stitch cardigan piece. Maybe something that's good for someone who's never made a cardigan before, aka me. But it just looks like a very nice, lightweight cardigan. This is just straight from the description. Knitted basic jacket in 2 strands of drops brushed alpaca silk. The piece is knitted bottom up in stockinette stitch, and they have the sizes extra small to extra extra large. Nothing too fancy about it. I have a cardigan like this that I got from, like, I think it was Banana Republic, um, and it's just a nice like office cardigan. I don't know how else to describe it because you could just pop it on if you're a little chilly, take it off, you could leave it at your desk. I envision this very much as like a summertime, springtime office chair cardigan. You know, just like a cardigan that you leave on your office chair. Maybe I'm alone in that, but I always have a sweater just chilling that belongs to my office chair at work. The next sweater is the Clouds Hug. The body is just stockinette, but there's really nice, like, kind of lace raglan detailing, and the sleeves are so beautiful. Like, this probably isn't as beginner friendly as, you know, the last one, but I kind of feel like you'd be able to figure this out a little bit easier than maybe like a full body lace item. They do include a chart, which I don't personally know how to read yet, but there is a chart in the pattern, and they describe it as a knit sweater with raglan in drops brushed alpaca silk. Um, Piece is knit top down with lace pattern and a balloon sleeve, and again, it's extra small to extra extra large. It just looks really beautiful. I think it would be a really like a nice spring sweater, and because the body is full stockinette, you probably do have to wear, I mean, it's up to you. It depends on how much you like to show, but I would wear this with like a tank top underneath so that the arm lace detailing is very evident to see. Um, and then have the tank top underneath just to cover the bits and bobs. But I also, you know, I could see this as being a really pretty sweater to have over like a bralette if you're okay with a little bit of skin showing. But yeah, I think it's a really beautiful spring sweater. Next is another cardigan, and I think this one's very like in vogue right now. That kind of tie front detail. Again, very simple stockinette, but it does have that I-cord like tie and edging detail. Again, in drops brushed alpaca silk and in drops flora. The piece is worked top down raglan with V-neck, rolled edges, and I-cord. And this one's from size small to triple XL. Yeah, this one just very spring to me. I feel like it's very like almost like I okay, apologies for how I phrase this, but like TikTok chic, you know what I mean? Like it just feels very like girly pop in a lot of ways, and I really love it. Again, a free pattern for something that's very popular. Another long sleeve option that I really love, and especially in the sample colors that they use, it's this like butter yellow color, but it's the Sunshine Trail. It is a knitted sweater with using 3 strands of drops kid silk, and it's worked bottom up with a lace pattern and a double neck. The size range that they have in here is extra small to double XL, and it's a full body kind of like lacy look, but it doesn't look super intricate, so it seems like it would be a good step and repeat type pattern. Um, and it's I mean, 3 strands held together seems like it could be spendy. But I think it is like a really nice, like, not just spring, but this could be kind of like, depending on maybe the color you do, it could be almost like a 3 season type sweater. Again, something that's like maybe cool nights in the summer worn, or, again, cold office AC situation. Um, but I could also see this being a really good fall sweater if you layer a long sleeve underneath it, and for the spring too, for that matter. And then there's this collection called Sweet Spring. This is the one that I am like so on the cusp of adding to my queue for the spring. But it's Sweet Spring. There's a sweater, and then there's a cardigan version. So it's Sweet Spring, then Sweet Spring cardigan. Um, I love this because it's again 2 strands of drops kid silk. They have the sizes small to extra extra or triple XL in the sweater, and then they have, yeah. So for both, they have size small to triple XL. I love the kind of lace and cable pattern that they have on the sleeve. I'm more so drawn to the sweater than the cardigan personally, but I think they're just so light and beautiful and just so airy, and I think it's also the color that they use that's really speaking to my soul, to be honest. Um, but yeah, so the cardigan is knit in 2 strands of the drops kid silk. It's worked top down with raglan, V-neck, cables, lace, pattern, etc. Color that they used for the samples, if you're wondering, is the pistachio ice cream, color 47. Yeah, this one is like, it's gonna have to be added to the queue, if not for this spring, maybe for the summer. But like, also sidebar, pistachio ice cream is my favorite flavor. So I kind of feel like just drawn specifically to this one. I also realize I feel like I'm not that imaginative when it comes to colors. So like, I am making the Frankie sweater by Sandnes, Soft for Women. It's from the Soft for Women book, in this exact color. Like, I did not think outside of the box at all. I saw this and I was like, I have to have this sweater. Same goes for the Jolie sweater. I am trying to get as close to this color combo as possible. So I I guess I don't really have that much imagination when it comes to color. So when I see this sweet spring sweater and pistachio ice cream color, I'm like, I want that exact sweater. The last long sleeve option that I have in here is more of like a 3/4 sleeve, but it's called the Wispy Dandelion, and it's a knitted sweater with like, they call it short sleeves, but I would say this is like elbow length, a little bit less. Honestly, I'd probably adjust the sleeve length to either be short sleeve or like probably bracelet length. I think that would be a more natural end point for me. But it's 3 strands of drops kid silk, and it's worked bottom up with saddle shoulders, rolled edges, and split in the sides. This pattern has extra small to double XL, and I think it's a nice, like, kind of boat neck style, um, just comfortable throw on casual top for the spring and for the summer as well. Those were the long sleeve options that I had pulled for this. Let's move to short sleeves. So the first one is, I believe this is also a free pattern. This one's the only one that's not by Drop Studio. So this is the Berry t-shirt by HOBBII. Its designer is Maria Sol Soltov Sol Sølvtofte. I'm going to put her name on the screen because I'm sorry, Maria. But for hobby design, again, I love the colors that they put in the pattern example, which is what drew me to it. But it's a little bit more fitted. I think the bottom hem kind of comes in a little bit, so it's got some like oversized elements, but it crops in nicely at like the waistline, so it's just a little bit more yeah, just a little bit more like feminine, I think, in that way. The description is a t-shirt worked in a striped pattern that consists of altering 3 rounds of stockinette stitch with 1 strand of pearly haze and 3 rounds of stockinette with 2 strands of Friends Kid Silk. And then you can also adjust the length. They have suggestions for that. And up next, back to Drops Design, is the first one I have is an Echo Mountain Top. This one, when I was browsing for sweaters, t-shirt, when I was browsing for knit t-shirts that I wanted to make, I again wanted something that had a little bit more um, design or something a little bit more like stand out about the neck or the shoulders, something that's like not just a standard oversized tee. So when I was feeling really ambitious, I saw the Echo Mountain Top. This is very lace forward. It's a lot more fitted. The sleeve looks like it would be a little puff, not huge, but just a little bit of something going on there. And it's a nice crop with like a high rise jean. It's because knitted sweater in Drops Paris. The piece is worked top down with a round yoke, lace pattern, and short sleeves, and it has sizes small to triple XL. Um, I've not used Drops Paris, but if I'm remembering correctly, that is a very budget friendly yarn. So I think this could be a good one. It needs between 350 and 550 grams of the Drops Paris. I can kind of see this being a good pattern for me to learn how to do lace, probably because it is so budget friendly, versus trying to do lace on one of the ones that requires like kid silk or just any kind of mohair. I think this one's a very darling t-shirt and or like a sweater tee. Um, yeah, probably won't get to it this year, but definitely saved in my archives for another year. Misty Mauve is the next item up. This one's just a very like light, airy, ethereal t-shirt. It uses 1 strand of Drops Melody or 2 strands of Drops brushed alpaca silk. And the piece is worked top down with a European yoke and short sleeves. I have no idea what a European yoke is. Don't ask me. But I think it's just a nice kind of like light classic sweater. The sleeve's a little bit longer. It comes to about elbow length, which is not, I kind of like that for like an office setting. Um, and then it has size small to triple XL. Similar vein, but more sleeve detail is the Violet Meadow sweater. This one has like the puff sleeve. I think this style was a little bit more like trendy a couple of years ago, but why not bring it back? I think it is still very cute. But it's a knitted sweater with 2 strands of Drops Kid Silk. Pieces worked bottom up with short puff sleeves, and it has size small to extra small. I believe if you like zoom in on the picture, there's slight lace detail on the puff sleeve. Slight, like very minimal. But I think that's nice because it adds a little bit of like lightness to something that could become bulky depending on how much like yarn is just kind of there. Um, there is a very slight chart, like a very small chart in the pattern. So I'm guessing yeah, I am guessing that there is that like lace detail. Violet Reverie is another one that very standard oversized tee look. Knitted sweater using 2 strands of Drops Kid Silk. Pieces knitted bottom up in stockinette stitch with short sewn in sleeves, which I've not sewn in sleeves before. That would be the new twist on this one for me. But I think it's just like again, classic. The gauge looks a little bit bigger on this one if you zoom in on the stitching. So this one probably could be knit up pretty quickly. The piece is worked in the round on circular needles from the bottom up to the armholes, and then it's divided for front and back. And then you finish each part separately, and then you work the sleeves from bottom up in the round until the armhole, and then you sew the sleeve onto the body. And then you finish by picking up stitches around the neck and work a neck edge in the round. And then the last category I wanted to throw in here, a couple of vests or a couple of like slipovers. The first one is the Mayflowers vest, and I think it's so darling. I have not done embroidery, but I think this is a very beginner friendly embroidery to do. I love that they look like little tulips, and the color is like this kind of, in the sample, is this like caramel, which I think has a really nice kind of backing, like spring backing for something floral like this. The suggested yarn is the Drop Soft Tweed, and it's worked with a v-neck, ribbed edges, and embroidered flowers. The size that they have is small to triple XL. These vests are definitely more spring, especially the one with the embroidery. And then the other one, the one that I pulled, is called Rose Blush, and it's a crew neck style. It looks a little bit more simple, and it has a split hem on the side, which I think adds a lot of like flow for the springtime. But yeah, this one is suggested in Drop Sky. It's worked with ribbed edging and a split on the sides, and it has sizes small to triple XL again. It's worked back and forth in sections and then sewn together to finish, which seems simple enough. And then the stitches are knitted up for the ribbed edges around the armholes and neck. This one could probably be a good stash buster too. It's just a very simple vest or slipover. That is it for my spring planning video. Again, what I'm planning, what I've already bought the yarn for, and then hopefully you found some inspiration from the other patterns at the back half of this video. And yeah, let me know what you're planning on making this season, and maybe I will add that to my queue, or yeah, any inspiration you might have. I'm so curious to hear what everyone's making this spring. And yeah, thank you again for spending some time with me.